If pain hasn't left yet, it doesn't mean you're broken. It usually means your body learned something very well and hasn't been shown it's safe to let it go. Yes, you heard it right. Pain is often something that the body keeps onto because it feels safe. It prefers feeling the pain rather than exploring whether it is okay to let the pain go. Most people, they equate pain to damage, but that is not at all the case. So because they think they're damaged, what they're doing is they chase fixes, treatments, and techniques, and when the pain stays, then they say, it doesn't work, I did it wrong, I'm unhealable. Just like I thought I was unhealable for over 20 years. But chronic pain is very rarely about damage. It's about prediction and protection. What do I mean by that? At some point in your life, something happened that caused your body to experience a trauma. And because your body does not want to relive the trauma, it creates a protection around the area that is in question. And that protection consists of pain. Now, what we like to do in conventional medicine is that we try to eliminate the symptom, which is the pain. But rarely do we seek to understand what is the true reason of this protection. What causes the protection in the first place? For those of you who know someone who suffers from a form of PTSD, you will know, for example, that if a soldier who has been in combat hears loud banging noises, it can often trigger the pain they felt when they were in combat and were, for instance, hit by a bullet. But the truth is that when they hear the banging sound, there is no bullet, and yet they feel the pain. So hopefully this explains that we all understand there is a root cause, there's a traumatic event that needs to be addressed. And once that is addressed, then the pain can be released as well. Now, depending on the complexity of the pain and depending on the nature of the pain, specifically pain which we call chronic pain or autoimmune pain, it often has to deal with trauma that we don't understand what the trauma is. We have to investigate. Sometimes we have to look into metaphysical components. Sometimes we have to look into energetic components. Sometimes we have to look into components that we cannot believe or that our minds cannot conceptualize. And that type of pain is the worst pain, is the most resistant pain, and is often the one that is going to be masked for life by painkillers and never addressed. But we all know what those painkillers do for us, don't we? Massive side effects. So let's try to understand what's happening. The body learns through experience, not logic. When something overwhelming happens, such as injury, emotional shock, or repeated stress, the nervous system creates a strategy. The strategy I mentioned before is all about protecting you. The strategy might look like tension, inflammation, guarding, pain. The fact is that pain that stays isn't stubborn, it is protective. And we have to understand, therefore, that pain is a signal, and we can choose to try to understand the signal, or we can choose to mess with the signal, interfere with the signal, which is unfortunately what a lot of medication does, which is unfortunately what a lot of conventional medicine does. Why? Because in conventional medicine, the body is looked upon as a machine with distinct parts that have nothing to do with each other. And that's also why we find so many healthcare professionals that carry the title of the part of the body that they are a specialist in. And listen, there's nothing wrong with seeing a specialist. I always like to say that healthcare providers do have their spot in the journey of being healthy, in the journey of healing. They're very important, for instance, when we have acute injuries. Sometimes when we need a surgery, we need a surgery. But here's the thing, we know that hundreds of thousands of people across the globe are stuck in pain, and when they talk to their conventional healthcare providers, all they hear is, we have to try something else, we're not sure why the pain persists, or in a worst case, they actually gaslight you, right? And they say, you don't really have anything, you're fine, it's just in your head, or we don't really believe you. Unfortunately, that happens more often than you would think. And if you are in that situation, then I have good news for you. I was in a similar situation in life, and I found a way out. And that way was so powerful for me that I decided to create an entire free webinar around it. So if you are curious and you want to really learn what I discovered and dive deep into that, all you have to do is click the link in the description and sign up for the next free webinar. So once you attend the webinar, and I can tell you this right now, you can continue watching this video, of course. Very often what happens is that when I work with people, I get instant relief. And for most people, I would say about 70 to 80%, the improvement is permanent. But there is 10 to 15% where the pain comes back. And we have to understand what that means. Temporary relief shows the system can change. Now, how often do you work on a project? Maybe you're trying to fix something. Maybe you're trying to get something right. Maybe you're trying to just make something behave or look the way you want. You can apply this to many fields in life. And you have temporary success where, oh, this time the cake came out the way I wanted. Oh, this time I was able to play that song the way I wanted. Oh, this time I was able to record this video the way I wanted. So you have temporary success, and sometimes you have a winning streak, but then something happens, a bad day, and it doesn't look that good on that day, or you feel like you're taking a few steps backwards. Now, it is the very same thing with pain and with the healing process. My healing process was a journey of 20 years, and I have to believe that every single day in that journey was constructive and necessary. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean necessarily that you have to wait 20 years as well. As a matter of fact, the whole purpose of me recording this video is to shrink that timeline for you. I really believe that had I met certain people earlier in my life, then I would have been able to get relief much sooner. That's the point of this video. And again, if you're getting curious and you feel like you want to understand more, go ahead and explore the links in the description. One link will probably lead to our company website, Go Pain to Power, if you simply want to try and book a session. The other link goes to that free webinar if you are more curious to really learn what is Shankar and Andrea about. Andrea, by the way, is my partner in business and life, and she runs Go Pain to Power with me. It's very important that you do your due diligence, right? So again, the webinar is for free. The link is in the description. But let's go back to the topic of why temporary pain relief is actually not a bad thing, but very often a sign that you are on the right path. Let me make this very clear for you. If you experience temporary pain relief with whatever modality you choose to pursue, it means that this works for you. Now, of course, painkillers excluded, right? Because they simply mask the symptom. Your brain is not allowed to experience reality. But let's say, for example, you go to a masseuse, you go to your acupuncturist, you go to your chiropractor, and you experience pain relief that is temporary. That's good news. It means something is working. Now, pain relief is tricky for a body that has been used to experiencing chronic pain for years and years. It doesn't really trust what's going on. So, in other words, when there is pain, in a way, there's a certain safety and security and predictability for the brain around that, right? It's not logical, but the body, in a way, associates the pain with survival, because the pain protects the body from you doing silly stuff, okay, such as overusing a body part that you're not supposed to overuse. But interestingly enough, the brain there's a specific term for it. It's basically, I think it's called learned non-use in neuroscience. And learned non-use. So if there is pain for a certain while, your brain learns to not use the body part, even though after some time it's perfectly fine to use it. That is specifically the case for those of you who go to get MRI scans, X-rays, what have you, and then the physician tells you there's nothing we can see, everything looks fine, you have the pain, right? So you're understanding what is going on. And this is important, what follows next. There is nobody to blame. You don't have to blame your body. This is biology. But luckily, you are watching this video and you are understanding that we have the knowledge to work with the brain, to retrain it and to make it understand, hey, you may be exaggerating a little bit. And can we go on a journey together to ease that pain? So then the question, of course, remains, well, what leads to permanent pain relief? And the answer is, there is very often a system that consists of multiple layers. And each layer, you have to think of it as a wall that's part of your fort that protects you, right? And with each layer, we deconstruct that wall. And depending on how complex the trauma, the underlying trauma is, there are many walls to deconstruct. So it is actually not a question of how long does it take to become pain-free, but it is a question of how often do I let myself experience the feeling of safety. And we all know there's different types of pain. There's emotional pain, and then there is neurological pain. There's probably also different types of pain, but just to keep it simple, there's emotional pain and physical pain. So we have to ask ourselves, what are the processes that allow us to teach our brain safety repeatedly, emotionally and or physically? In the field of the emotions, most of you know of talking to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And in the field of physical pain, most of you know to see your physician, your general practitioner, your chiropractor, what have you. Most of these people, and again, I want to repeat myself, they have a very valid place in the ecosystem of healthcare, of wellness, of personal care. But most of these people actually do not work directly with the brain. They work with the symptoms that talk to the brain. The method that I have devised after my healing of chronic pain of 20 years is actually a very powerful, honestly, the most powerful method I have met that works with the brain, with what we call neuroplasticity, which is a fancy word for saying that your brain can learn new ways. Your brain can learn safety, permanent safety. Again, if this is something that you feel curious about, there's two ways to leverage your time to reward you for watching this video. Number one is to go to the website directly, where we offer sessions just for people who want to experience this. And number two is you want to dive a level deeper, you want to educate yourself. We have a free webinar for you. All you have to do is sign up and then attend. It's on Zoom, and you will see me again, or Andrea, depending on what version of the Zoom webinar you are watching. I want to give you a picture of what hope looks like, because there is true hope. Every day I see people who experience pain relief that they have not been able to enjoy in years. And actually in most cases is permanent immediately. So you can go and look me up and look Andrea up and look Go Pain Power up. You will probably find lots of short testimonial videos. But what does hope look like for someone who does not have the chance of immediate pain relief? Here are a few items. Flare-ups are shorter. Recovery is faster. Pain feels different. This is a big one. We get reports so often that the pain shifts, the pain travels, the pain feels different. That is actually very good news, and it is part of the very intricate process of building new neural pathways. The emotional response to pain changes. This is a big one too. During my 20 years of chronic pain, I definitely had learned to have a different emotional response to my flare-ups. Whereas at the beginning, it was a fatalistic, devastating, disappointed emotional response that I had. Towards the end, it was a lot more, okay, my body's trying to tell me something, I'm being taught to be resilient, and also I'm being taught to truly learn to feel my body, to know my body, to nurture my body, and to do what's really best for it, no matter what. That means that progress isn't always less pain. Sometimes it is more regulation. And as you probably know, regulation, emotional regulation, and also nervous system regulation is something that you can learn. And guess where you can learn that for free? It is by joining one of our free webinars. It's that simple. So, in closing, your body is not against you, it is protecting you. Healing is a conversation, not a command. If this resonates with you, it usually means that your nervous system is ready to learn something new. And if you have made it to the end of this video, you are definitely ready to learn something new. And one more time, I invite you to either go straight to our self-serve website where you can book a session with us. And by the way, don't worry about location. We can figure out a way to help you. Or you are one of the deep seekers and you are going to attend one of our webinars. In either case, congratulations for not giving up on your pain relief journey. You will see the future is full of hope.